Hello, my name is Josh, and this is our program on do-it-yourself electrical outlet replacement. Now, a bit of background before we get started. I've been doing DIY projects for about 20 years now, and this is by far the easiest project you can do for rewiring. It is pretty much your starter project. This is how you'll get into doing more complex things, if you so choose. Or if you're simply here to replace one outlet and save yourself a couple $100, since that is about how much your average electrician is going to charge you, then have at you. So this will be a pre-recorded program that will last about 10 minutes. So hopefully you are in your own house. So take a seat at the dining room table, get yourself a snack, don't drive anywhere, and make sure that you watch this program until you know what the process is, or watch it as you're doing the process. Just make sure that you know what you're doing, because even though it's easy, there can be some issues that you need to watch out for, which we will cover later. Oh, replacing an electrical outlet safely is cheap, easy, and it's a puzzle. Oh, once you complete it, you will feel pretty good about yourself, and you're realizing that you just saved a whole bunch of money, which is also a plus. So what does that actually mean in terms of it being super easy? Because I know you've gone to the hardware store and seen that electrical aisle, which has hundreds of different knobs, switches, dials, plugs, covers, wires, whatnot, and have you. It is very confusing. I know the first couple of times I went there, I definitely got lost. But luckily, it is very easy, as I keep saying. So you really only need two basic outlets in your entire house, and you really only need two basic sizes. So let's get started, shall we? Alright, so the first thing we're going to cover are, of course, the outlets and how to tell them apart. Now this is quite easy. There are, again, only two of them. So the first, most basic one that you will see pretty much all over your house is this bad boy right here. This is a standard three-pronged outlet. It is present throughout most modern homes. Now, the next one is going to be this one. So this big boxy looking fella here is a GFCI, or a ground fault circuit interrupter. So you'll definitely want to put one of these in near any water. So for instance, in your kitchen, near the sink, or in a bathroom, or outside. If the outlet you are replacing has one of these guys in it, you will need to replace it with one of these guys. Now, don't worry, the process is pretty much identical for both of them. Now, the different sizes that I mentioned earlier. So, in your standard house, you will have two different sizes of circuits. You will have 15 amp and 20 amp. Now, this difference is very important because you cannot put a 15 amp outlet on a 20 amp circuit. But it is luckily very easy to tell which is which because it literally tells you right on the box. So right here, this number in red right here, that indicates that this is a 20 amp circuit outlet. And this one right here says 15. Now, when you go to the store, you will find that the outlets very clearly label which ones are 15 and which ones are 20. Now, the outlets are actually quite cheap. You will usually find 15 amp outlets for about $1. GFCIs, on the other hand, will be quite a bit more expensive. They will probably be around $10 to $15 each, but do not skimp on the money because these are very important protection, and you must have it per building code. We've covered the outlets. We must cover the tools that you will need to replace them, which again, quite easy. So first thing, most important thing, you will need a standard voltmeter. So you can find this at any standard electrical aisle. Now, they don't necessarily have this big old voltmeter with the dials and all the switches and whatnot. You can find one as simple as it lights up when it senses a circuit, and those are by far the cheapest. Now, next you will need a screwdriver. You will need both a flathead screwdriver and a Phillips head screwdriver. And the last tool you will need will be a flashlight of some sort. Now, why do you need a flashlight? Because when you shut off the circuit to the outlet you're replacing, you will likely shut off the light as well. So you're definitely going to want this to see what you're doing. Here we have it, our basic puzzle pieces. We have your middle of the puzzle, your replacement outlets. Can't really complete the puzzle without them. And then we have our edge pieces, the tools. Can't really start the puzzle without those. Oh, now let's head down to our circuit breaker. Here we are at the electrical panel. So inside we can find all of our breakers for the house. Now these guys are conveniently labeled with either 15 or 20 amps right on the switch you need to flip to turn it off. Now remember this number because you will need to match it with the outlet you are using. Now the one we are using today just so happens to be this one right here. So just because that breaker is off does not mean that necessarily that the power to that outlet is off. Always double check with that voltmeter to make sure. Here we are at our outlet with our puzzle pieces. Now first off, our voltmeter. Now this particular one works by moving this little needle up here. So if that needle moves at all, that means there is still current going into this outlet. Yours might be a bit different, so always read the instructions for your individual machine. Alright, so once we confirm that there is no power, we take off the cover. Pretty easy. Alright, now we want to switch to our Phillips drive screw because these next screws are fairly long and this can take a minute. By all means, take your time. Do not try and use a power drill to undo these or screw them back in. You will break your plug. Now that we got those out, give it a nice pull. You're going to feel some resistance because those wires are stiff. Alright, so the next step is to undo our wires. Now you don't need to start in any particular order, just know which wires you take out of which screw colors. That will be important later. Now this particular model, the wires plug directly into the back without bending. The model that we'll be replacing it with does the same. Now some of your models of plug will curve the wires around the screw, and you'll just need to figure out which one is which. It is essentially the same process. Instead of just plugging the wires into the back, you just curve it around the screw and tighten it down. Alright, yank that off. Now, make sure you know which wires are which. Alright, so here we have our replacement outlet. So our black wire will go to this screw right here, the bronze one. The white wire goes to the silver one. And our ground wire, which will be the bare or the green one, will go to the green screw. Now don't worry, it says right on the back of the plug which wire goes to which. Now, white, black, green, or bare are pretty standard throughout most modern homes. However, your colors might be different, so make sure you know which wire you took off of which screw, like I said before. That is why I've separated them into these three different areas. So now that we plug them back in, again, you don't have to go in any particular order as long as you put them on the right terminals. And you're going to want to tighten them down nice and tight. You'll want to use your flat blade screwdriver for this because you'll want to get a good firm grip on it. The Phillips head just doesn't work as well in this particular case. And remember that your black will go to the gold or bronze colored screw. Make sure you get that nice and tight. Don't want those wires coming loose. Get our white wire in the silver screw. Now give each wire a good hard tug to make sure they do not come out or get loose. If you feel any movement in the wire at all, tighten it some more. And now we shove it right back in there. You don't have to be gentle with this. The wires will resist you, so you can use some significant force. But once we get this shoved back into the box, we screw it in. Now you're going to want to alternate each screw a couple of times so that you can screw the plug in straight. And you want to get these nice and tight. because otherwise your plug might move around when you try and plug stuff into it, and that's not great. Alright, so switch to your flat blade screwdriver and screw in your cover. Now this one you do not want to over tighten because you can crack this cover doing this. And again, alternate the screws. Alright, and we're done. All you need to do now is just flip that breaker back on, and you should have yourself a working outlet again. That was pretty easy, right? In fact, most DIY projects are a pretty easy puzzle to solve. And most of them already have how-to videos online. You don't even have to try to figure it out yourself. Most people have already done that work for you. So if you like this how-to video, by all means, let me know. Leave a like, share it, or if you have any questions, by all means, leave it in the comments, and I will do my absolute best to answer them. In the meantime, thank you, and watch out for more.